Hi guys, in this video we will learn how to build and prepare for a deployment of a typical Node.js project in Jenkins. This video is a part of a larger tutorial series and you can either watch it as a standalone tutorial, or if you need a little bit more context on how to set up Jenkins, how to make it up and running, check out the link to the complete playlist that is fully published on YouTube and completely free in the description for this video. So now let's go on and configure Jenkins for job in Node.js. So what we'll do is we'll go and click the new item here because we want to create a new job. Here we will enter the name. So I will call it Nanogram, exactly as the name of our fictional website. And I will choose the type as a freestyle project. These days it's considered to be slightly better to use pipeline type of a project, but it is a slightly more advanced configuration and we'll go there soon after a couple of videos once we learn how freestyle projects work, because freestyle projects are significantly easier than pipeline projects. Let's go and click OK. And this is already known build configuration screen. In this build configuration screen, I will go right away or scroll down to source code management. And here what we want to do is to choose our version control system. In this case, it is Git. My project is hosted on GitHub, and you can paste the repository URL here, and the URL can be in any style that Git supports. So I'll go to my GitHub account and I'll find the button clone or download on my project page, and I will make sure that I'm cloning it with HTTPS, not with SSH, but with HTTPS. Why is it important? Because right now I do not want to add authorization to this project just yet, because authorization will be a subject for another video in this tutorial series. And right now I will be using public project. So if your project requires credentials, check out another video where we will be talking about setting up credentials in Jenkins. But for now, I'm just assuming that this project is publicly accessible, at least for reading. All right, so now Git is configured, and right away what I want to do, I want to save these changes and I will trigger the build of this job. I will make sure that Jenkins has access to Git and it will receive the files from my project, from my Git repository. Let's go now to workspace. See, this blue ball here means that everything went well, so there was no errors, but still it's better to make sure. So let's go to the workspace and check if the files are there. And yes, I see all the files from my project downloaded successfully. That means that Jenkins could establish connection to Git and could get my source code. So this first step is already established. Now it's time to build our project. So let's go back to configuration, click configure, and go to the build part, or scroll down to the build. So you can scroll it this way, or you can click on the tabs on the top this way. Now it is worth saying that in Node.js there is no build per se, so you don't have to convert your JavaScript into some sort of a binary form and package it into some sort of a form, like for example for Java project this is very typical. In Node.js all you really have to do is to install the dependencies and then run unit tests, and then maybe you want to archive the results so that you can deploy it to the server. So this is exactly what we'll do in this video. I'll create a new build step and I'll execute shell here. And here I can write the script that will be executed right after Jenkins downloaded the fresh version of the code. It is worth noticing that this script will be executed on the box that is running Jenkins and on the OS that is running Jenkins. So if you are running Jenkins, for example, on Windows, it will be Windows that is executing this script. So make sure to use the appropriate shell commands that your OS will understand. So here I will run npm install, and this command will be well understood by both Windows and Linux, and that will download the dependencies. All right, and let's save it and just try to trigger the build one more time and see if Node modules appears together with this project. Now, as usual, let's open Workspace and check that Node modules are there. So now you have the whole package that you need to deploy to the server, and the next step of the build would be to archive the whole package and make sure that you can safely run it on the server. So right after installation is over, I'll do tar czf. I'm creating zipped file, and then I will put the name of the file. So let's call it nanogram.tar.gz. And then I will list the folders and files that I want to include into this archive. So that will be Node modules, obviously, main.js, package.json, and maybe public, because that's where my public HTML files are residing, and finally license. For your specific project, the list of files may be different. Well, in this case, just use your files that you will want to have deployed to your server in this command. Or maybe if you're building a library or npm module, the next step for you would be to run npm publish. In this video, we'll create an archive that contains all the resources for this application to run. So all we will have to do is to upload this archive to the server, extract the contents of this archive, and run the application there. All right, let's save and run our build once again. Now the build is completed really quickly, and now you will see that there is one more file that just appeared in our workspace folder, and it's called nanogram.tar.gz. Just like in our previous videos, this file contains everything that you need to run this application on your server. But we can do a couple more things to make this job configuration even better. So let's go back to configure screen. Let's scroll all the way to the build and look at this command once again. I'm always creating the same file that is called nanogram.tar.gz. It would be nice to have a couple of additional things. First, I would like to include the number of the build into the name of the archive. This way, if I have several files lying around my hard drive or in my server, I know exactly what was the build number for this specific artifact. And doing that is very simple with the help of environment variables that Jenkins is exposing to our job during the build. So here, see the list of available environment variables. Let's go and click this link. Jenkins will open its documentation, and here you see all the environment variables that Jenkins is providing to you during the build time. And you see there is plenty of them. And the most interesting one for us is a build number. I can see it straight away, but it should be there. Build number, here it is. I will use this number as the part of a name of my file. So I'll go back to the configuration and I will call this file nanogram-$build number tar.gz. Now let's save it and run our build once again to make sure that the build number is indeed added to our build artifact. And let's go back to the project and open workspace. Here it is, nanogram-4 tar.gz. If you want to be a little bit more fancy, you can even include the commit number into the name of the artifact. So this way you will know exactly which commit caused that build. Or there are some other techniques to do that. For example, you could include the file that you dynamically generate during the build into this archive that tells exactly when the build was made, what was the ID of a commit, and what was the name of the server, etc. and so on. So some additional information. Now the small issue here is that each time when I will be building my project, I will create another archive because they are not cleaned up, they are not deleted. There are two ways to address it. First and foremost, you can go and say that you want to wipe the whole workspace before the build. So if you scroll down all the way to build environment, you will see this option here. Delete workspace before build starts. This approach could work, but I would not generally recommend it for Node.js project because it will simply mean that npm will have to recreate node modules, and even doing so from the cache is kind of heavy operation. So I don't want to delete the whole workspace. I just want to delete the old files before the build. And for that, I'll just go to my execute shell and add another command here. Rimref everything that ends with tar.gz. So this way, at the beginning of the build, I will delete all the older archives, but I will keep my current archive because I'm deleting it at the beginning of the script and not at the end of the script when the file is created. So let's save it and let's build it again. Now, if I go again to the workspace, I'll see that nanogram5 tar.gz is here, but not the other files. Now, there is one more thing how to improve this build. We can go back to configuration, and we can ask Jenkins to keep build artifacts so that they are not wiped and they are easy accessible afterwards. In this way, if you will ever need to restore your build to some older version and include all the dependencies that were downloaded at that time, Jenkins will keep that artifact for you. Of course, there are better options to do so. There are artifact repositories, so it's strictly speaking, it's not Jenkins' job to keep those artifacts forever. But nevertheless, it is a pretty convenient solution, at least up to the point when you have your own Docker repository up and running and you can publish artifacts properly. All right, so we will add a post build action and we will say that we want to archive the artifacts. And here we will need to tell Jenkins what are the artifacts for this project. This field over here is not exactly a regex, it's rather a pattern that is used internally in Jenkins, and you can find the documentation about how these patterns work in this link, but the easiest way is just to show how it works. And nanogram dash star dot tar gz will quite intuitively match all the files that start with nanogram and end with tar.gz, no matter what is in the middle. Jenkins will copy and keep this file separately, so even after you're deleting all the tar.gz files in your workspace, these artifacts will not be affected because Jenkins will keep them separate from the workspace. So let's save and see how it will work. Let's run the build again. And this is build number 6 for us. It's taking a bit longer. Now, instead of going to the workspace, let's go to the build history and click on the build number 6. And you see here this additional section that is called build artifacts. And here this artifact will be accessible for as long as Jenkins is keeping the builds. If you want to keep this artifact forever, well, you can click keep this build forever, and Jenkins will keep this build forever. This way you will be always able to download this artifact. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. In the upcoming videos, we'll talk about credentials in Jenkins. We'll see how to authorize against the private repositories in Git, and also we'll see how to deploy this resulting artifact to the server and run our application with PM2. See you in the next videos. Bye!